June 19th, 2007 Parish Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Would you please stand while Ms. Areno says the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance?
Heavenly Father, we again thank you for your goodness and mercy and your blessings that you bestow upon us every day. Lord, we thank you for our country. We thank you for our government. We thank you for our military. And we pray, Lord, that you would protect them from harm's way as they are in places all over the world on our behalf. Lord, we thank you for this board, for our parish government. We pray, Lord, that the things we do will be orderly and in a mannerly way, and that our actions will be pleasing in your sight. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chrissy, would you please call the roll? If someone's absent, state the reason.
Chair Samuel Abear.
Here.
Vice Chair Ray Fontenot.
Here.
Mr. LaSalle Williams.
Here.
Mr. John Duhan.
Here.
Mr. Johnny Johnson.
Here.
Ms. Janice Areno.
Here.
Mr. Whit Baker. Mr. Gary Navarre.
Here.
Miss Betty Brown. Miss Latricia Cobb. She'll be here. Mr. Brad Evans.
Here.
Thank you, Chrissy. This is an 11-member board. It will take a majority of those members present to grant or deny any request heard tonight. The meeting will be conducted with me reading the request from the agenda. The planning staff will give a presentation and report their recommendations. If the applicant would like to add to the staff's presentation, or if someone from the audience has comments, please come to the microphone and state your name, address, and the nature of your request. All persons wishing to speak other than the applicants need to fill out a blue request to appear form located in the back of the room. I recommend that a spokesman be selected if there's a large group wanting to speak on the same agenda item. After the discussion, the board will vote on each request. I will announce the decision of the board after the vote. Zoning exception and variance cases are final tonight. The rezoning cases will go before the police jury for final action on Thursday, June 21st of 07 at 5:30 p.m. in the same room. The meeting is being taped by the Calcasieu Parish Government Channel and can be viewed on Wednesdays and Thursdays following the meeting. For additional run dates, check the website www.cppj.net. Channel 63 and 77 in Lake Charles, Channel 14 in Sulphur, Channel 61 in Moss Bluff, Westlake, Vinton, and Quincy, and Channel 99 in Carlos and Grand Lake. Please turn off your cell phones and pagers. Appreciate that. Okay, let's see. The first item on the agenda is take appropriate action to discuss preliminary approval on Tammy Acres subdivision to be developed by Palvest Inc. for residential purposes on Cassie Drive in Ward 6. Ms. Tammy?
This property is located in the North Sulphur area, and the subdivision will consist of 6 lots, with the average lot sizes being 5 acres each. It's for residential development of houses and manufactured homes, and the staff recommends a request be granted subject to using best management practices as per EPA guidelines. There's also a variance that goes along with this case. The petitioner is requesting to allow 6 residential lots with less than required public road frontage. They're required 100 feet. They're requesting 30 feet. And each lot will have a access of 30 feet. And the staff recommends that the request be granted.
Thank you, Tammy. Any questions?
Motion for approval.
Second. Got a motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Duhan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it. Motion's carried. Now, we need to vote on item 6, I think. Is that correct?
Right, the variance.
Variance.
On the variance,
Second.
motion by Mr. Duhan, second by Mr. Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it. Motion's carried. Item number 7, take appropriate action to discuss preliminary approval of Linton Wood subdivision to be developed by Matthew Vincent for residential purposes on West Houston River Road in Ward 4. Ms. Tammy?
This subdivision also is in the North Sulphur area. The subdivision will consist of 5 lots with the average lot sizes of 2.55 acres for residential development of houses and manufactured homes. The zoning is A1 agricultural, and the staff recommends that the request be granted, subject to using best management practices as per EPA guidelines.
Where is this located?
The North Sulphur area? It's off of West Houston River Road near in Claiborne, North Claiborne.
Ms. Reno?
Why is it necessary to have a subdivision plat and be approved since they have 200-foot road frontage on each lot bordering the street? I mean, I thought you only had to do it if you had to do development or didn't have the
Want to address that,
proper
Mr.
road
Vickers?
frontage.
Anytime you have more than 2 or more, it requires plat approval.
Even
And-
if each lot has access to the road and
Yes, ma'am.
can have its own driveway and everything?
Anytime it exceeds 2, it
I was
requires
just
plat
curious.
approval.
I knew that about development going backwards. I mean, not having enough frontage on the road. I just,
Right.
since each of those lots were road frontage.
Motion for approval?
So,
Got a motion by Mr. Duhan, second by Ms. Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it, motion's carried. Move on to item 8, take appropriate action to discuss preliminary approval of the Orleans Run subdivision, Phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, to be developed by St. Prosper PFU Inc. for residential purposes on North Perkins Ferry Road in Ward 1. Ms. Tammy?
This subdivision is in the Moss Bluff area, and last month we rezoned this property to allow single-family residential and multifamily residential development, and they're coming before us this month to get approval for the preliminary approval for the subdivision. The subdivision will consist of 118 lots, ranging from 0.15 acres to 0.83 acres of residential development. The staff recommends that the request be granted, subject to using best management practices as per EPA guidelines.
Thank you, Ms. Tammy. Any questions? Do I have a motion?
Second.
Mr. Williams.
Got a motion by Mr. Williams, second by Ms. Reno. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it, the motion's carried. And we're gonna listen to 9 and 10 and vote on them separately. Number 9 is take appropriate action on case RZ 03-015-07, a request by Prairie Land Company to rezone from A1 agricultural to R1 single-family residential to allow residential subdivision development on Opelousas Street in Ward 3. And item 10 is to take appropriate action to discuss preliminary approval of Opelousas Acres subdivision to be developed by Prairie Land Company for residential purposes on Opelousas Street. Ms. Tammy?
This property is located in the East Lake Charles area on the corner of East Opelousas Street and Bruce Street. The petitioners are requesting to rezone it from A1 agricultural to R1 single-family residential to allow residential subdivision development to allow houses only. The subdivision will consist of 20 single-family residential lots, and the surrounding area is mostly residential. And the staff recommends the request be granted. And also on the subdivision, the Opelousas Acres, the staff recommends the request be granted, subject to using best management practices as per EPA guidelines.
Thank you, Tammy. Any questions, comments?
So moved.
second.
We have a motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Reno. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it, motion's carried. Move on to number 11. Take appropriate action on case EX 03-015-07, a request by Benjamin and Teresa.
We got to vote for that second part, Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
I'm sorry. Okay.
So moved.
Have a motion for second for number 10? A motion by Mr. Duhan, second by Mr. Brad Evans. All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it, the motion carried. Yeah, I'll start 11 again. Take appropriate action on case EX 03-015-07, a request by Benjamin and Teresa A. McDaniel for a zoning exception to allow commercial development, a woodworking shop at 3085 Old Town Road in Ward 3. Ms. Pam?
This property is located in the Old Town Road area, and the McDaniels own an acre of property, and the shop you see in the very back right-hand corner is what they would like to convert into a woodworking shop, and there it is in the picture right there. It's a 26 by 40, and this is going to be a part-time business, And the business will provide custom wood molding, and also they intend on using a 5x8 wood sign on a metal trailer that will be used for advertising purposes. On the property, as you can see right now, is a house that they live in and a manufactured home that their son lives in, and then the shop. The staff does recommend the request be granted with the following stipulations: that the development, here the site plan on file, the Division of Planning and Development, that the development be limited to a woodworking shop only.
Thank you, Pam. Questions, comments?
Motion.
Have a motion by Ms. Reno, second by Ms. Cobb. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it, the motion's carried. Number 12 on the agenda is take appropriate action on case EX 04016-07, a request by the Terrio Family LLC for a zoning exception to allow a residential development, a house, on formerly Highway 108 in Ward 4. And I say formerly because you may not know that that street now is called Coach William Drive, named after our industrious Coach Williams.
He didn't know, Coach.
Hoorah.
So congratulations, Coach. I thought you had to be dead to get a road named after you. So that's a great honor, Coach. Okay, so with that in mind, Miss Pam?
Okay, this property is located in the North Sulphur area, and this is the property that's been cleared. It consists of a little over 5 acres of I-1 light industrial, and Mr. Terrell would like to build a 40 by 80 two-story metal building on the property, and he'll utilize the first floor for storage and the second floor as his house. And the staff does recommend the request be granted.
Have a motion by Ms. Brown, a second by Ms. Areno. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it. Motion's carried. Item number 13, take appropriate action on case EX 02017-07, a request by Warren Poole for a zoning exception to allow a borrow pit, 3 acres at 7582 Brandon Lane in Ward 2. Ms. Pam?
This is located in the suburbs of Hayes area, and they are consisting of 27 acres of property, of agricultural zone property. And Mr. Poole would like to dig a 3-acre borrow pit that he will dig himself. He's asking for 10 years to complete the pit. As you can see, the surrounding property is mostly undeveloped pasture. And the staff does recommend the request be granted with the standard stipulations for a borrow pit, and the additional stipulations that the limestone must be placed on the access road a distance of 300 feet from Brandon Lane prior to permit issuance, and that the exception is for 5 years or when the excavation is complete, whichever occurs first. He's requesting 10 years, and we're recommending 5 years.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Pam. Any questions, comments?
Motion approval to 5 years.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Johnson, a second by Mr. Navarre. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it, motion's carried. Item 14, if you remember, was something that we delayed, deferred until this meeting. It was take appropriate action on case EX 04014-07, a request by Southside Assembly of God Church for a zone exception to allow residential development, 4 manufactured homes at 3231 Highway 27 South in Ward 4. Ms. Pam?
As Chair Abear just explained, that we did defer this case from last month to give the engineering department time to do a drainage impact study for the area because there were some concerns about the drainage in the area. And in front of you is a copy of the drainage study that you have there. And basically, to summarize, the Division of Engineering and Public Works will be installing some culverts in that area to improve, and several other improvements in the area, and already have done a few things since the last meeting to help with these drainage problem out there. But basically, they feel that this development would not hinder any of the drainage out there right now.
Thank you, Ms. Pam. I'd like to get someone from the Southside Assembly of God Church to come to the microphone. State your name and address for the record, please.
Pastor Pastor Max Dukeson, 1516 Rose Lane, Salford, Louisiana.
Thank you. Do you want to give any explanation about this project?
Well, basically, it's to provide, we thought it would be a way to help people in our membership to give them a place of stay while they recuperate from the hurricane. The trail is basically our main purpose. I know it's a year required by FEMA that we have to allow the trailers to be open to be used. There's no rent involved. We can't charge for the properties. Basically, we're responsible for the insurance, everything. Basically, we provide a free place for them to live. But our end result would be to have these to use for educational purposes.
Is there a time limit on how long you're going to allow?
I think it's a year that we have to have it open to allow people to live there. Anybody that's been involved in RETA, requirements, FEMA has the restrictions on that. But,
And that's going to be open to the public or to your membership?
well, I think we have to open it to anybody that is, that I think qualifies because of the storm through FEMA.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Johnson?
4 trailers total,
Yes, sir.
and how long? A year, or we could go on longer? Or?
No, we have to have it available for a year to use for people to come in and live in them, but after a year, they become property of the church, and our intent is to use them for educational purposes
As part of the church.
as part of the church.
Thank you.
Ms. Brown?
I'd like to say that I talked to a FEMA representative, and that is the stipulations. They do have excess trailers, and they're doing this, but you do have to let somebody, if we have a hurricane, God forbid, but if we do, they have to be open for occupancy, and it has to be open to anyone who needs the place, and it's for a 1-year term, and then the trailer is yours.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I just wanted to clarify, you can't charge them any rent?
No, we cannot charge them any rent.
But they'll pay their own utilities and stuff, I would presume, huh?
I'm not, from what I understand is, I know we're responsible for the insurance and upkeep, setting up the trailers. I'm not sure about if they have to pay even the electricity. I'm not sure the church.
Income, sorry.
That's coordinating, okay.
Okay, thank you, Reverend. We have 2 people that want to speak concerning this issue. So I'm going to ask Annette Schroll, if I'm saying that correctly. I hope I am. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, Ms. Schroll.
You got it right. Annette Schroll. I live at 459 Arnold in Sulphur, Louisiana. I'm about a half a block from the church. I would like to express my opposition to this plan. The little area that was on the drawing that they submitted to you is very small. There is almost no way you can get 4 trailers in that little small area without them being bumper to bumper. But the main thing that is important to me is I've been living in this home for 7 years, and my dad lived in the property next to us, so I know what kind of neighbor Southside has been. And they have not been a good neighbor when it comes to noise. They already have one activity center on the corner of Arnold and Stillwell, and they have youth meetings there, and it is extremely loud. My windows rattle. I can't hear my TV when this stuff's going on, and it goes on till usually after 10:30. I have not gotten any good response when I've called to complain. I've called the activity building, I've called the pastor's home, I've called the sheriff's department, and I've not gotten a good response. Another thing that goes on the church property is fireworks. When I've called to complain about it, they said, we don't know who's on our property. Well, I think you should know who's on your property. This continues well past midnight, every time there's any occasion for fireworks. I'm just going to ask that y'all deny their petition on the basis that they just have not been a good neighbor to us. One of the things in their paper, in their brief, they said that they wanted to use these trailers for a clubhouse after the year was up. I think we have one clubhouse too many as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schroll. Any questions for Ms. Schroll? Thank you, Ms. Schroll. We have one more.
It's in the city limits outside.
No.
Outside?
Speak about it. We have one more person that wants to speak about this, Ray Spencer.
Ray Spencer, 459 Arnold. I'm here also to voice my opposition to the 4 manufactured trailers that are wanting to be brought into the south side properties. For one thing, I think whenever the request came out, it said that they were going to be 4 FEMA trailers. In my light, when we talk about 4 FEMA trailers, we're talking about trailers that are 16, 18 feet, 18, 20 feet long. These trailers, to my understanding, are going to be 60 feet long. You're going to have 64 60-foot trailers that are going to be crammed into a small area. Now, right now, with the group who is in the deacons or whoever is the head of the church, the pastors and so on like that, this is probably going to be, right now, it must be an important item or an object to them. As time goes on, and if any of you are part of any church families, you know that these things change, such as the enrollment, such as the pastor is going to change, deacon boards and so on. These things may not be as important later on, or as time goes on, as they are right now. What's going to happen to these trailers? They're going to fall possibly in disrepair, and they're going to need quite a bit of upkeep. If anybody that is or knows anything about trailers, knowing that they require constant upkeep. I feel that the request should be denied by the board here, and that they should not be allowed to have these. By having 4 trailers, I think this constitutes something like a trailer park. What's going to keep them from later on saying, well, why can't we have 6 trailers? Why can't we have 8 trailers? Why can't we haul some more in here? Where does this end is what I want to know. I can see that the church wants to improve themselves. Have no problem. We need to have more church improvement as we go along anyway. We need more church improvement, but I don't think that the trailers are the way or the method to go about improving themselves. If they want something like that, let them get together with their boards and build something in a permanent nature. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Any questions for Mr.
I got
Spencer?
one question.
For Mr. Spencer?
Yeah, I guess Mr. Simpson, the young lady who spoke before. Am I getting the impression that you're saying that the church is not good neighbor?
They have not been good neighbors in some respects, yes. I think she mentioned that on occasions of 4th of July, 1st of January 1st, we always have a problem with fireworks that they do on the area there, and they continue on, and they even fly over into our yards with the types of fireworks that they have. There is noise on occasions that they have from their little clubhouse that is on a corner there that is 100 feet or so, 200 feet from our property. So there are occasions that they have not been the best of neighbors.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Coach, you got any general comments you want to make?
Well, I'm 4th of July.
Out of the city limits.
Out of city limits, that's normal for us.
Ms. Areno, you?
That's no problem with it.
I'd like to ask Brother Max a couple of questions. As I understand, this group that's in the clubhouse is your youth group, and that's like, what, once a month, or at least once a month?
The cafe, they meet once a month, yes. ma'am.
Cafe meets once a month. Activity for young people to keep them off the streets, and
yes.
they do have bands.
Usually it's on a
and
Friday
probably
night.
do make a
Yes.
little noise. I guess they could all be out on the street instead.
Yes, ma'am.
But maybe they could make a little better insulation in the building or something,
I
you know?
guess we could try.
Try turning that down a little bit. Also, do I understand that after a year, if you do not need the trailers for your own use, like Sunday school rooms, nursery, or whatever, you will be free to sell them, right?
Yes,
For the
we would
church
be.
to try to recoup back some of your expenses for having
that
set them
it is
up,
going to cost us quite a bit to set them up.
to set them up and to utilize them. So you don't have to just leave them sitting there till they
No.
become in disrepair. You will be able to
Well,
sell them and
one
move
thing
'em.
we would not want to do is let them come into disrepair, because it would bring down the value of our own properties, which we don't want to do at this point.
I understand. Okay.
I have a question for the Reverend. I'm looking at pictures of the church, and I mean, it's a very nice-looking church. But how long has this church been here?
Over 50 years.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
We-
Ms. Brown?
At one time, wasn't it partially destroyed by fire?
Yes, and it was rebuilt.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion, motion?
Motion. Second.
Got a motion by Ms. Cobb, a second by Ms. Areno. What is your name, sir? Ah, you were hidden.
Well, they've been trying to hide me.
Should have picked a different color than blue.
Y'all finally made it.
Mr. Oliver, Mr. Henry Lee Oliver, I will ask you to come to the podium, say your name and address for me.
My name is Henry Oliver. I live at 510 Arnold Street, about half a block down from the church. And I don't know if I can repeat what what was said between me and the pastor and some other people about this, because I met with them and talked to them, trying to find out where they were going with this thing. Now, we did have a drainage problem, and as Pam said, they did a study. And hopefully, if they follow their plan, they're going to resolve that. Because 4 trailers at 10,000 gallons of water a month is 40,000 gallons they're going to dump in there. The flooding was flooding up into the yards when heavy rains. That was a big concern. But as I spoke to the pastor and Phil Quinn, he's not here tonight, to try to get a feel what the church is wanting to do, and I realize people are reluctant to turn churches down because it kind of sounds bad. They're in the business of doing great things, and we all appreciate that. But I could never get an answer as to where they were going with this. At the last meeting, a gentleman sitting right over here, I'm not sure what his name was, asked him about it, and he said, well, we may have some people living in there, and then it may be empty, or somebody may live there 1 month and it'd be empty. Well, maybe I can clear some of the stuff. I've been kind of digging around, trying to get an idea, because when people ask for a variance or an exception, many times those people don't live in a neighborhood where this is going to take place. So I don't want to get into, saying bad things about anybody, but we did discuss it, and they thought I was using this to get my ditches cleaned and a drainage, which is not true. That was one of the problems that really needed to be addressed because it was a health issue. When a ditch, we have open ditches and mechanical sewer system, and if it floods up into yards and little kids play in it, well, then naturally they go in a house, and it is a big issue. Well, we've addressed that, and hopefully it's going to be tough. But as I asked them what their plans were, I had a lot of vague answers. We're really not sure. So I would ask you, has any of y'all seen this book? Have y'all read through this book?
Nope.
Maybe it might be a good idea. If you're interested, I'll leave it with you, because this tells you what they have to do. Now, if they didn't know what they had to do, and he told me, we really don't know what we're going to do. So in my mind's eye, a flag goes up is, are we trying to grow the church by giving free housing? Or we just, want to get a free ride on this? Because they told me these trailers may be empty. We may have somebody live there 1 month and it'll be empty for 11 months. FEMA says there must be a need from a disaster. We're 2 years behind the hurricane. These trailers are free, and as I understand in talking with several of the governing bodies here, that if you put 4 trailers like they're going to do there, this constitutes a trailer park. Well, they can get up to 50 trailers or 100 trailers. They first have to submit to FEMA people that are in need, explaining the stipulation, why they need it, and an ID number, and a follow-up every 3 months to qualify for this stuff. So,
Well, Mr. Oliver, I'm still waiting for you to give me a reason that's hadn't been addressed already in this room about what
we don't know where they're going with this thing. And I asked him about this, if they put 4 trailers there, and and I know it's impossible to unring the bell. And once a precedent is set, it usually slips through again. So if they put the 4 trailers there and they come back in 6 months and say, we want to put 5 more trailers there,
they'll have to come across this board and get permission from us to allow that to happen.
but generally, like I said, past practices, well, we've got 4, what's 5 more or whatever. Now, they drew a diagram of this where they want to put the trailers. It's an area of 100 by 100 feet. That's 10,000 square feet. They're going to put 4 mobile homes there. I understand home sites, generally they expect 16,000 square feet for a home site. They're going to put 4 of them in there, in this one small area. I haven't had a chance to check on what the fire marshals say about, cramming these in there, because fire trucks have to get in there on occasions, if there's a fire. But I have a lot of unanswered questions, and I couldn't get the answers to them. Where are they headed with this thing?
Well, if we trust the pastor and what he said, the way I understand it, they're gonna have to get those trailers given to them, they're gonna have to make it available to people to rent, to use as a domicile for a year, then they're gonna use it for church activities, church rooms, church classrooms, church clubs, kids clubs.
I would ask the pastor if he...
No, sir, you need to speak to us.
If he's ready, because what this book says, now he asked you all this, and someone asked him, what would he do after a year with the trailers? FEMA says if they sell them, they got to reimburse FEMA with the money. That's in the book. This is the book, Mr. Bustan.
But that's not an issue that you should be concerned with, nor should the land use have anything to do about the land use. We're here to talk about land
Okay, but
use.
the picture is the deception of which, I'm trying to get information what's going on, and I keep getting steered that maybe we might have somebody living it, maybe we're not. My question is, are they trying to develop the property into something else?
I think we can only go by what he's stated at that podium, is that he is going to have to supply that for people to live in for a year, and then he's going to use it for private church purposes. That's the only thing we can go by. Now, do you have any other concerns?
Well, I had a concern about dragging in a bunch of more trailers and cramming them all in there.
Yeah, well, that's a concern. I mean, I noted that.
Yeah. And, then their church is trying to buy 20 acres, I realize that. So in all retrospect of the things that were told to me, I tried to piece it together to understand what they're wanting to do, whether they're trying to get a permit or variance or an exception to put trailers, move in some more trailers, sell the land with the exception, and then move somewhere else, or I just didn't understand what the deal is. I know what he said, this is what we want to do, but was kind of vague when I talked to him.
Mr. Oliver, I appreciate your concerns, and so far I've heard a few that would be issues that we would normally deal with in this meeting, in this board, and I appreciate that. So at this time, I'm going to ask do you have any questions?
Yes, I'd like to ask Mr. Quinn a question, please, if he'd come back up.
Does anybody have questions for this?
No, sir.
No, not
No,
Mr.
sir.
Oliver, I don't.
Okay, Mr. Oliver, thank you very much. We're going to ask
Pastor.
the pastor to come up to this podium and answer a question or two.
Yes, sir. Some of your neighbors seem to have some legitimate concerns. Would you have a problem if I amended this for a time limit on these mobile homes?
I mean, as far as the time we can keep them on the property,
Yes, without coming back before us.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
All right, let me explain. Let's say we put in here a 3-year time limit, an exception for 3 years. At 3 years, if you wish to keep them longer, you come back before the board, and if everything is going well and it's according to plan and not disturbing your neighbors, we'll give you an extension. If it's not, we won't. Would you have a problem if we did
I
something like
don't
that?
think so, no.
What would be a good time limit to suit you? Would
I
3
think
years be acceptable?
3 years would be acceptable.
Okay, I make a motion that we give them an exception for 4 years? 4-year exception. At that point,
That's
If
the
you-
1 year of using it for housing, and then 3 years for the church to use it
Whatever.
For Sunday school rooms or clubhouse or
right,
whatever.
and
I'd make a comment to that. Mr. Duhan, would you add to that maybe that we're not going to have any more homes?
You can make a variance, that's fine with me, too.
and I think this would perhaps help you decide where you want to go with it in that time, and at the same time, it's not a permanent thing for your neighbors. They can, if it's working fine, if it's not working, they can come back and say it didn't work out.
I have a problem with that at all.
Okay. I'm asking. Yeah, 4 trailers only for
Yes.
4 years.
For 4 years?
Yes, that's my motion.
Do I have a second? Have a motion by Mr. Duhan, a second by Ms. Brown for that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? That motion's carried.
Motion for approval. With the stipulation.
Second.
Have a motion for approval with amendments from Mr. Duhan, a second by Mr. Johnson. Let's do a electronic vote.
She keeps pushing it.
It's saying,
It says why. It says why. I mean,
Bring it, push it up, lift it up.
Using your index finger?
There it goes.
Johnny was missing.
Okay, we have 11 for, none against. The motion has carried. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to the next item. 15, take appropriate action on case RZ 03012-07, a request by Big Lake Enterprises, LLC, to rezone from R2 mixed residential to C1 light commercial to allow an office for an engineering and construction firm, Charles Ladner and Associates, on Big Lake Road in Ward 3. Ms. Pam?
This property is located in the South Lake Charles area, and the business would like to operate the office on a 4.83 acre tract of property, and they intend on building a 3,000 square foot office building, which will be hardy plank siding, concrete drive, and parking areas. And they're basically relocating their business from downtown to South Lake Charles. The areas you can see surrounding is an existing, previously was a commercial business, and then wood and mostly elsewhere around the property except for the south side is a house. The staff does recommend the request be granted with the stipulation the development adhere to the site plan and file the Division of Planning and Development.
Thank you, Ms. Pam. Do we have any questions? Mr. Duhan?
Motion for approval.
You have a second? We have a motion by Ms. Duhan, second by
Ms. Cobb.
Ms. Cobb. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Motion's carried. Moving on to item number 16, take appropriate action on case extension to EX 04075-02, a request by Roger Burgess to allow a 2-year extension to complete a 30-acre borrow pit at 6696 Highway 27 South in Ward 4. Ms. Pam?
This property is located in the Carlos area, and Mr. Burgess owns 36 acres of property. As you can see, this is the existing dirt pit that's been going on. And 2002, this board granted him the exception to dig the pit for a 2.5-year period. And then he came back in 2005 and asked for an extension on that time, and y'all gave him a 2-year extension. And approximately 90% of the borrow pit has been dug as of today. And he's requesting another 2-year extension to complete the dirt pit. The staff does recommend the request be granted with the standard stipulations for a borrow pit, with the additional that the extension is for 2 years or when the excavation is complete, whichever occurs first.
Thank you, Ms. Pam. Do we have any questions on this?
Motion for approval.
We have a motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Williams. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Motion's carried. Now, 17 and 18 are joined. I'll read them aloud and then we'll vote on them separately. 17, take appropriate action on case RZ 03013-07, a request by HD Truck and Tractor LLC to rezone from I-1 light industrial to I-2 heavy industrial to allow a concrete recycling facility on Capo Road in Ward 3. 18 of that is take appropriate action on case VA 03013-07. A request by HD Truck and Tractor LLC for a zoning variance to allow a driveway to exceed the maximum width. It's allowed 40. They're requesting a 100-foot width driveway on Capo Road in Ward 3. Ms. Pam?
Okay, this property is located in the East Lake Charles area, and y'all are familiar with it because you gave subdivision approval for the industrial development a few months ago. But they are wanting to rezone this one lot to I-2 heavy industrial to allow the concrete recycling facility, which basically they are having stockpiles of concrete there to do the processing, a concrete crusher, a 14 by 50 construction trailer, truck scale house, and a 40 by 60 equipment storage building. and it is located in the Capitol Hill Industrial Park that you recently did approve. The staff recommends that the request be granted with the following stipulations: that the development, here the site plan will follow the Division of Planning and Development, that the development be limited to a concrete recycling facility only, that all buildings must have a facade that is non-metal, either being brick, stucco, hardy plank, or vinyl, that a landscaping plan must be submitted and approved by the Division of Planning and Development, landscaping must be installed prior to issuance of an occupational license, and that all signs must be low-profile monument signs. And on the variance portion, they are going to have an entrance coming off of Capo Road, and the parish allows you to have a 40-foot wide driveway. Because of the trucks that'll be going in there, they're asking for a 100-foot driveway to put in there. And the staff does recommend that the variance be approved also.
Thank you, Ms. Pam. Questions, comments?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Fontenot, second by Mr. Navarre. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it, the motion's carried.
Proponent, right?
Yeah, he's for it.
You're for it, right?
For it. He can still-
Already passed, you don't
I have to add something to it before.
So the zoning or the variance? The zoning or the
talk.
variance?
It's zoning?
Yes.
Well, I'm not, is he on there? So how do we deal with this? Well, just one second. How do we deal with this?
Well, he's the the
Let's see
applicant.
what he's got to have.
Okay, state your name for me and address.
My name's Keith DeRusso. My address is 3928 Indian Bay, Lake Charles, Louisiana. Friday, we found out we had some opposition from our neighbors on the southern boundary of this property. And in cooperation with HD Truck and Tractor LLC, we decided to maintain a 50-foot wooded brushed buffer and water to be added to the conveyor system when there's a north prevailing wind. Woody has an operation that he manufactures certain oil field fishing tools, and he has some really complicated computer operated machines, and he felt confident that I would make this a part of the condition, and I just want to keep my word with that and add this as a part of the condition.
I want to be clear, and you work for HD?
And
The
co-owner.
owner?
That's correct.
Can we do that, add that in?
We can, the staff recommends approving those also.
Okay, we can do that. I want to thank you, and it's so refreshing, because most people tend to be willing to negotiate to win their cases. After they win it, and they still want to do it. It's unusual. Thank you very much. Okay, let's see.
Variance.
We need to vote on 18, the variance.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Johnson, a second by Ms. Brown. All in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. The motion's carried. We're moving to 19. Take appropriate action on case VA 04009-07, a request by Kenneth and Teresa Pretzer for a zoning variance to decrease the rear yard setback requirement, required 15 feet. They're requesting 13. At 1403 Sarah Street in Ward 4, Ms. Pam.
This property is located in the South Sulphur area, and this is the manufactured home you see in the picture that they recently moved on. It's 18 by 80, and they moved it on the property without any permits. And they are currently residing in the manufactured home, and the existing house in the front yard, which is, this is the existing house in the front yard, will be removed. They intend on tearing that down soon. But go back to the other picture. This is the back of the manufactured home, and that's the back property line. And they're supposed to be 15 feet from the back property line, and they're only 13 feet right now, so they're requesting the 2-foot variance. The area out there consists of manufactured homes, and the staff does recommend that the request be granted with the following stipulations: that the development, here the site plan will follow the Division of Planning and Development, that all proper permits must be obtained within 5 days of zoning approval, that the manufactured home must be skirted within 30 days of zoning approval, and that the existing house must be removed from the premises within 60 days.
Thank you, Ms. Pam. So do I understand that this slab was poured and the trailer was put on it all new?
Yes,
Okay. Since the storm?
yes, just recently, they moved the manufactured home on there.
All right, well, let's hear, we have one person in opposition. I want to hear from them first. Henry,
Missy.
Missy? Thank you. Would you come up, state your name, say it better, I'm sure better than I did, and your address.
My name is Henry Missy. I reside at 1315 West Parish Road in Sulphur. And Pam was just saying that the homes in the area are manufactured homes. The ones adjacent to this are not. Across the street there are, but in the area where this manufactured home is all regular homes built out of lumber and brick and what have you. And there are some manufactured homes there also, but one of the biggest oppositions is the devaluation of the appearance of this home, how it's been handled over the last many years. And several of the neighbors are here with me tonight, and they're not in agreement with anything to be given to this family. They moved in, and the measurements are not correct. And if they're going to be left to leave the trailer there, we would like to do it right, exactly to the T, and regardless of cost. Everyone else is having to suffice, and if someone's going to live in our neighborhood, and these people here with me all have very nice homes, and I live on the other side of this same property, and I've allowed them to even use some of my adjacent property, and like Pam said, they didn't have a permit to move in to start. The inspectors have been out there several times over very unsightly conditions, and we ask that they be held to the T, whatever's necessary about
Missy,
restrictions.
Mr. Missy, in some cases in the past, and I'm not saying that this case here, I'm speaking about any particulars of this case because I don't know more than what I've been told here today, is that sometimes we're able to use, when somebody wants something, make them give us something for it, you know? So, you know, in your mind, what is the neighbor's biggest complaint about that lot?
The view that you see there, and it's not just, and the front view looks pretty fair. They keep vehicles out there, these vans that they don't really use. They're still legal to be there because the tires do stay aired. They're not, they just sit there. Around the other sides of the home is debris galore. It's not a sightly place to see. You walk around the neighborhood on that side of the street, and you have people who have all very neat homes, and something that's, this feels like it's a devaluation to the community.
And you know they're tearing all that down in 60 days, within 60 days.
Well, I don't know how long they've had this other trailer in there, and I don't, no one else here knows either because they didn't get a permit to do it right to start, you know?
Okay. Any other
Everyone else
questions?
follows the rules, and we do what we're supposed to do.
Mr. Navarro?
I have a statement. I went out there with Mr. Missy and Mr. Hooper from the zoning board. I would hate to have that house there in my neighborhood. And I don't live in no fancy neighborhood, believe me, but it's terrible. It's atrocious. There's 4 vans. There's a utility trailer that's got trash piled on it. That picture there looks great, and it's not what they're saying here. Henry and I measured it. It's like less than 4 feet from the property line on one side, and it's like 12 foot 6 inches from the back.
Okay. What I would like to see of the motion, guys, you might help me phrase this, is that this whole place gets cleaned up within a period of time for them to be allowed to keep the trailer in spot.
Could we talk to the applicant first?
Yes, sure.
May I ask also one question before they do? Like they have a FEMA trailer there, is that allowed to stay too? I mean, they bought a new home, evidently they had insurance money or somehow they were able to afford a brand new mobile home there. Is the FEMA trailer and other stuff?
I'm gonna let Mr. Vickers address that.
unfortunately, that a lot of people that are no longer residing in FEMA trailers are still on the property because it hadn't been officially decommissioned. And I don't know whether that's due to FEMA's contractor not being able to get there due to the fact that so many people are getting out of them. To be quite honest with you, is that FEMA is trying to now, rather than decommission a lot of these trailers, they're trying to sell them. So they won't have to go through the expense of having to decommission them, refurbish them, and then what do we do with them? So that's been a major issue.
How many dwellings can you have on a piece of property?
I'm sorry.
How many dwellings can you have on one small piece of property,
Well, I think
87 foot wide?
It depends on the size of the piece of property. I mean, I agree with you that the house definitely needs to be demolished. I don't think there's any question about that, and I think that's the reason that we stipulated that. Insofar as the FEMA trailer getting picked up by the government, that's something that the applicant's not gonna be able to control. I mean, and like I said, it may be there some period of time, and they may end up auctioning it off and end up selling it. They're developing several different programs now to try to deal with this, and I know a lot of the travel trailers, like I said, that they're gonna offer them to people, and they're gonna have to be completely decommissioned before the parish will be involved in the approval process of doing some of that. But it's right now, it's somewhat in its infancy of this program kind of getting started. So they just kind of told us about this. Our last police jury meeting, the police jury took some action regarding some of the sale of manufactured homes and these travel trailers. So to answer your question, I can't tell you because that's a FEMA choice.
I understand. Well, just so if they'll go by the restrictions of 3.5 foot on one side and 15 foot on the back side is what primarily would.
Thank you, Mr. Missing.
I have a question.
To Mr. Missing?
No, for Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Missing. Go ahead, Mr. Navarro.
Jimmy, if the FEMA trailer that's on there, if he buys it, can he leave it on there?
It would have to be decommissioned. It could only be used on, it couldn't be living for anybody to live in and everything. It could be used as a travel trailer only, if that would be the case.
Well, because this guy moved this trailer in with no permits, and I still want to ask him how he got it on there. He went through somebody's property to get it on there. And that's what if he did that, what's to stop him from leaving that, the travel trailer or whatever on there?
All right. I'm going to ask
Me,
you to state your name and address.
Teresa Pretzer, 1403 Sarah Street.
Thank you,
The FEMA trailer is gone. They came and got it. I went up there and they asked and they came and got it. It's gone. When I went and purchased, when my husband and I purchased the trailer, they said, well, we have all the permits and everything, and I thought that's all I needed. I did not know that I needed a permit to put a trailer on my property. We have every intention of tearing down the house. It's moldy. It's in disrepair. We cannot live in it. And we needed a roof over our head. I know the yard needs to be cleaned up, and it will be.
Well, Miss.
I know, and that's why. And the skirting, like I said, is we need to find out if we have 13 feet or 15 feet. Why put up the skirting if you got to move it up 2 feet? We'd have to redo it all.
Well, Ms. Pretzer, from just my hearing different information today, there's a lot of resentment
Yes,
in the neighborhood,
I
and
understand.
mainly it's from not taking care of the yard. And if you do that, then I think that this board's would
No
vote to allow
problem.
that to happen, and that includes the trash, the
Right.
stuff. And
Right, not
I
a
can understand. I can understand how that gets out of hand. And I've seen a lot of things happen to people that lost their homes. I've seen a lot of emotional damage from people
Yes,
that
sir.
felt frozen and stuck. I saw that firsthand by a lot of people I knew that are
will,
lawyers and
and-
doctors in this town.
We're gonna clean it up, and I plan on it because once we tear down the house, we'll get some dirt in there and make a front yard and make it nice. And for our son, we have a 7-year-old son, so,
I just want you to understand that if it's not done within a timely fashion, then you'll have to move that trailer.
oh, yes, sir. And, we got the trailer in. It's not that we broke any laws. The neighbor next to us to the west let us use his property to move it in. We asked him, we said, could we move it in that way? He said, sure. And we did, and the guys got it in in one day, in one afternoon.
I just want you to be clear about we're going to have a time frame. I'm not sure how that works, but, within that period of time, and then we'll.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Not
Any
a
other
problem.
questions for her? Well, we got a round of questions. Go ahead, Mr. Navarro.
Mr. Hooper told me that the vans, he goes out there sometime, the vans are gone, and he goes back out, and the vans are back there. What are y'all gonna do with the vans? Do they
And
run?
we have two vans. We have a work van and my van at work. There are two vans that are in, that don't, my husband, can my husband?
Sure.
Two vans, brown and blue van.
I have 4 vans. 2 of them I use for work, and 1 is hers to drive personally.
There's 2 of them parked right next to the fence that hadn't been moved. They got grass this high around them.
Okay, yeah.
2 customized vans, 2 old customized vans.
Okay, 1 doesn't run, and 1 I need to put a starter on. It's my work van. I can move it.
Are y'all
Other
gonna
one-
do something with them, or
Yeah,
y'all gonna
I
just
wanna
let them
get-
right there or what? Because the grass, really, I went out there, and the neighborhood is a very nice neighborhood, and it's atrocious looking. I mean, it's terrible.
I plan on moving the brown van and fixing the other one.
And the utility trailer that's rusted, sitting right there in the front of the yard?
gone.
It's gone?
I got rid
Okay.
of it, took it to the
It's gone.
trash bash.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Duhan?
No, I just have a comment. You said you didn't violate any laws. You violated several laws.
Okay, I didn't,
Uh,
I could
Didn't
probably
un-
explain that a little
I
bit.
didn't understand.
Well, okay. You're supposed to get a permit, obviously, to comply with the rules and regulations, and you violated several. In doing so, you put more than one dwelling on a lot, which is not allowed at that size.
Right.
You're violating the setbacks on all 3 sides.
How?
Well, you're too close to the property line. You're not,
In the back, yes, sir.
yeah.
East side.
The problems you had in the past, I'm no more confident that the future is going to be any brighter than the past. What I'd like to do is make a motion that we delay it for 60 days, and if you clean up the place and tear down that house in 60 days and do something with those vans, I probably would vote yes. If you don't, I would probably vote no. But I'm going to make a motion that we delay it for 60 days.
I second that motion.
That's a good idea, and you understand, you're gonna get that vote today, and then it's gonna be slower. When-
Yes, sir.
Give them 60 days, and in 60 days, you need to get it done.
The house clean, yeah, everything will be done.
Make it look good, and invite your neighbors to, to help, to give you opinions on it. I mean, you wanna be a good neighbor, and so people don't get in an uproar unless they see something that's gone on for a long time and they can't do it. Decent, normal people, if they're upset with somebody else, it's usually because we can't communicate, can't work it out. And so you got 60 days to get all this stuff straightened out.
Okay,
Okay?
okay, thank you very much.
That's a motion. We got a motion by Mr. Duhan, a second by Mr. Johnson. All in favor of that stipulation?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? The motion's carried, so you got 60 days to get it cleaned up. It's gonna come back to this board.
We need to come back?
Yeah, absolutely, to see if you can stay in that trailer or not.
Okay, thank you.
We're gonna move on to the next item. These are, the next 3 items are all tied together, so I'm gonna read them all off. 20, 21, and 22. 20 is, take appropriate action on case RZ 08014-07. A request by 7th District Pavilion to rezone from A1 agricultural to R1 single-family residential to allow residential subdivision development on McCown Road in Ward 8. 21 of that is take appropriate action on case VA 08014-07, a request by 7th District Pavilion for a zoning variance to allow a public road to exceed the maximum length required. The required is 2,200 feet, and they're requesting 2,400 feet on McCown Road. And the last part of that is take appropriate action to discuss preliminary approval of Pavilion Acres to be developed by 7th District Pavilion, Inc. for residential purposes on McCown Road in Ward 8. Ms. Pam?
This property is located in the Manchester area, and the petitioner is requesting a rezone from A1 agricultural to R1 single-family residential to allow a residential subdivision development. The subdivision development will consist of 118 lots, averaging .36 acres, and they're wanting to rezone it for single-family residence only, that's houses only. The surrounding area is mostly residential, and for the rezoning, the staff recommends the request be denied. And they're also requesting a variance, and the variance is to allow public road frontage, to allow a public road to exceed maximum length. They're allowed 2,200 feet, and they're requesting 2,400 feet. The staff recommends in the event that the rezoning is denied, it is recommended that the variance approval be delayed until such time that a revised plat can be resubmitted reflecting the current requirements for A1 agricultural zoning. And also, they are requesting a subdivision approval, which I said, they're requesting 118 lots, and they're wanting to do it, rezoning it to R1. And in the event that the rezoning is denied, it is recommended that the subdivision approval be delayed until such time that a revised plat can be resubmitted reflecting the current requirements for A1 agricultural zoning.
Thank you, Ms. Tammy. I'm sorry. I'm going to ask Mr. Byron Rocca to come up from Myers and Associates to speak about this project.
Mr. Chairman, let me say one thing if I could. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, relative to this item, I do want you to know that we've had extensive meetings with some of the opponents as well as the applicants on this matter, and there have been several different issues that have come up that we've tried to work through and tried to reach a compromise, and unfortunately, we hadn't been able to do that. 7th District Pavilion has constructed some homes all over the parish. It's done a good job and so forth of doing that. But at the same time, there's some issues that have been involved with this particular proposal here that have caused some concern, and rightfully so. And some of the neighbors have raised some points that I think are valid. I think that in fairness to 7th District and meeting with them, they've tried to resolve some of those to the best that they can. I think they've made a faithful, good faith effort to do that. Unfortunately, sometimes that in this process, as you well know, that there are differences of opinion, and reasonable people sometimes have reasonable differences, and I think unfortunately that's what we have tonight. So I'll go ahead and yield the floor to this gentleman and let him go ahead and make his pitch on behalf of the applicants. But our recommendation to you will stand as recommended on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Vickers. State your name and address for me.
Okay. My name is Byron Rock. I'm a design engineer with Meyer & Associates, 600 City Service Highway, Sulphur, Louisiana. I'm here on behalf of 7th District Pavilion tonight to discuss their proposed development off of McCown Road. I believe I have a PowerPoint presentation available. There it is. Go ahead and go to the next slide.
John, go ahead.
The proposed site is located off of McCown Road. As you can see, it's in the general vicinity of McCown Road and Boys Village Road. It is approximately 140 some odd acres total. They're proposing 118 lots as laid out on the view you see there. The lots, right here we have you can go ahead. Right here we have a slide that indicates the ordinance versus the development review. The zoning ordinance for R1 lots that have a mechanical sewer system with no community water. We would have liked community water, but it is not available in this area. It is outside of a current water district. And for those types of attributes, the minimum width of a lot can be 125 feet and a minimum square footage of 16,000 square feet. No subdivision block can be longer than 2,200 feet in length as stated in the variance request. All roads have to comply with the typical section provided by the Calcasieu Parish Planning and Zoning Board. Our proposed development, we've discussed, as Mr. Vickers stated earlier, we've had several meetings and it's gone back and forth on the size of the lots. This is the wrong one. It's the 16,000 square foot one you're supposed to pull up. It's gonna be a minimum of 16,000 square foot lots with a minimum of 125 foot in width. The variance requested for the roadway is 2,400 foot, and that is in direct correlation to the layout of the property. On the previous slide, if you noticed, it's shaped kind of like a pan. The actual handle of it is 2,200 feet long. In order to access the rear portion of the property, you need an extra 200 feet to get to it. The last statement on that sheet refers to the typical section. All the subdivision plat was laid out accordance with the Calcasieu Parish typical section, 60-foot right-of-ways, 20-foot road, 15-foot drainage utility easements. That is the correct one. The next slide is showing her potential development phasing. Phase 1, as you can see, I can't see the acreages from here, but they have associated acreages with each phase indicating it. It's going to be developed in 5 different phases. Phase 2 will be the largest development. In all, she has projected that the total of the 5 phases would take about 10 to 15 years to construct, because she's going to go one phase at a time and, you know, obviously obtain clients and buyers for those lots and, you know, proceed as planned. You know, I can go to the next slide. These are some of the subdivision restrictions that she has presented. They're pretty standard amongst most subdivision restrictions. One accommodation she has recently tried to make, as far as with the residents in the area, they were requesting that a minimum square footage of heated and cooled area be 1,350. So she has tried to accommodate that request there. Other than that, I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary as far as the restrictions go. I'd be happy to answer any questions on them. This is a recent development she did, if anybody's interested in looking at her previous work or 7th District's previous work. Tall Sky Development. It's located off of Helms Road in South Lake Charles. They got some pictures of some homes she's built recently in that area. I think they have a grand opening this week, tomorrow, for this particular development. They built, I want to say like 12 homes. I may be off on the number, but somewhere in that nature. And this is some pictures of the interior of the homes.
What's the square footage of those homes, Mr. Walker?
She told me on Tall Sky, the minimum square footage is 1,280. They go anywhere up higher than that. I don't know what the maximum is, but yes, sir.
These homes you just showed us are brick. Are these homes you
They
can
have
build?
they have a brick front facade with vinyl siding on the sides and rear. It's the front
Is that what you plan on doing on
She
McCollum
has
Road?
several house plans available. That is one of them. She has some that are all vinyl. It is, you know, the initial phase of the development is geared towards, they have some particular clients that are obtaining USDA loans, and they have a maximum funding capacity on the loan. They also have to put in sweat equity onto this and everything. But they are going to be able to choose from a plan that can fit their financial loan approval.
Sir, you keep saying she is. Who is Seventh
Oh, I'm
District
sorry.
Pavilion?
So
know who
tonight
you're talking
with me in the
about.
audience, we have Miss
Pardon?
Thorne. Tonight with me in the audience, we have Miss Dazetta Thorne,
Dazetta Thorne.
and she is owner of 7th District Pavilion.
Why
and
don't we have
she's
Ms.
here.
Thorne come up to the
Okay.
microphone? Ms. Thorne, would you state your name and address for us?
Dazetta Thorne. I'm at P.O. Box 166, Roanoke, Louisiana.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any questions for Mr. Duhan?
Yes. Hurricane Rita took almost every piece of vinyl off of every vinyl house in the area. Why would you go back and build a vinyl house after knowing that?
We did some vinyl homes on Lake Fairway Drive, and very few of them were damaged. We have about 13 homes on Lake Fairway Drive. We do have about 13 on Tall Sky also.
Mr. Johnson?
But we are building according to our budget.
Right. Mr. Johnson?
Thorne, I understand Mr. Rocca said Phase 2 was probably your largest development. Do you have any idea how long that's going to be before you get in Phase 2?
Probably about 4 or 5 years
When it's completed or started?
before I start. We work on a grant, and it's a 2-year grant, and we propose to build 25 homes in 2 years. That's the way the grant is outlined by USDA.
Thank you.
And we have other areas, I'm sorry, we have other areas that we work in other than Calcasieu Parish.
Thank you.
Mr. Vickers?
Ms. Thorne, it's my understanding that, that residents other than the grant recipients, these lots would also be opened up to them as well for
Yes, sir.
an individual that may not be obtaining a grant through the USDA, that as the subdivision develops further, then an individual that just wanted to build out there, then y'all gonna make these lots available to them as well? I mean, obviously, subject to your restrictions.
Yes, sir, but the families who are building are not getting grants. They are borrowing money from USDA, that's
Yes,
the lender.
yeah.
But yes, those lots will be open and available to whoever is interested in purchasing. Yes, sir.
Mr. Baker, you have a question?
Who builds the house?
The families act as contractors, but we have a construction
Contractors
supervisor.
or subcontractors?
No, they act as the contractor. That's the way the program is designed by USDA. It's called Sweat Equity Program. And we have a construction supervisor. We are what you call the mediator. We oversee that project, and we get the subs. And the subs will come in and do the framing and the work that the families cannot do. And the families come in and do the rest, that part of it.
Do the finished work
Yes, sir.
inside?
The painting, staining, cleaning up, and
Is this similar to Habitat?
it is, but the families do their work rather than getting volunteers to come into the community. The families have to put in so much work per week. And we are not limited in our square footage. I think Habitat might do 1,100 square feet. You asked about the size of these homes. The largest one out there is about right at 1,800 square feet. We have 1,400, 1,440 is the limit, the smallest living area that we've done. Most of them are anywhere from 1,280 up to 1,400 living area.
Mr. Fontenot?
I guess a question I have is, the property bought is this bought under government funding, or is that your personal funding?
No, sir, it's not personal. It is government funding.
'Cause It
I don't own the property.
It really shocked me when I found out what the property sold for, as opposed to what it would be, appraised at, and it's come somewhere close to 3 times the amount that the property was appraised at that it was paid for. And I don't know how accurate that is.
The appraisal value that we got on the property was 68,000.
Okay, the appraisal was much higher than what I guess we would figure that farmland would go for.
We did have to have an appraisal done before we purchased it.
Ms. Arena?
Ms. Thorne, I just want to tell you right off the bat, I have a real problem with a project like this way out in the middle of a rice field in the country.
Please stop.
I've been trying to figure out why y'all were here, but the reason I have a problem, and I can just tell you from past experience, and I work with a company that ran into this kind of problem, is you have farmland all around you. You step way off in the country, and you want to put 120 people right in the middle with farmland all around you. Next thing you know, you're not going to want them to have a horse next to you. You're not going to want them to have a cow next to you. You're not going to want airplanes going over, putting fertilizer out or putting chemicals out because it's going to drift over your house. And you built right out in the middle of what was a farmland. I mean, where people do farming activity. They have cows, they have horses. They sometimes fly over with pesticides, chemicals, that type of stuff. I know our company ran into the same thing as town kept getting closer and closer, had to quit farming a whole big farm that was a very productive farm that we had for many years because people complained because you couldn't put fertilizer, chemicals out and things like that. I just think you should really look hard into accessing you a place that's more amenable to this type of activity to me, and 120 water wells are gonna have to be dug for each one of these lots are gonna have to dig their own water well in this little limited area right here. I just really have a problem with this type of activity way out in the middle of an agriculture area that people usually move out in the country to be away from little boxes all in a row right next to it. So I'm not in favor of it.
We've been, for 2 years, we have families who've been looking for affordable land to build houses. They've been working on their credit, and we have not found land that's affordable. And if it's affordable, then the restrictions are so high that the families are not able to build.
Well,
So
you
we have
change it from
families who-
agriculture to residential, which is a step up in restrictions
Lorena,
now.
Let her speak.
Well, I mean,
Let her
I
speak.
was talking.
Go ahead.
And I appreciate what
Up
she's
in the-
saying, but also when I look at the need and the lack of housing in the Lake Charles area because of Rita, and when I look at the families that I'm servicing right now, like I said, we have 20 families on the waiting list who are waiting to build homes, and they've been looking for lots for the last 2 years. So the purpose of the program that we're working with is to help families attain decent, safe, affordable housing.
No? Duhon?
So you're saying that the only place you could find affordable land is away from rural areas, or agriculture was the only thing that would be affordable?
We have to build in the rural area. It has to be,
That's part of the program?
yes, sir.
Okay.
We can't build within the city limits.
Any other questions? Do you want to make any other comment? Any other comments? Okay, we may call you back up. I'm going to ask Mr. Ernie Broussard to come up and speak. Well, I guess so, Mr. Moss, if you want to.
My name is Russell Moss. I live at 1830 Boys Village Road in Iowa. My property adjoins this property. We kind of have a problem with the density of putting as many homes on the area that it is. Most of our neighbors have anywhere, we have a few with half acres. The majority of them have 1 acre, 3 acre, 5 acre tracts. We know that everybody can't build the big home. We think a 1,250 square foot home or 1,350. We've talked with Jimmy a couple times, and this is kind of seesawed back and forth. And these homes that they put out on the TV right here, and I may be wrong, but I think these are on 1/2 acre lots, you know, and they're nice homes. I don't believe these homes that we're looking at are 1,250 square foot homes. I think these are 1,400 and 1,500 square foot homes with brick. We asked kind of for brick, you know, 50% brick, 50% vinyl. We didn't get that. We're not after a big expensive house. We know everybody can't afford that. But we would like to have something that's compatible with our neighborhood. Another thing that we're going to run into, and we had the fellow with Meyer and Associates, we never talked about drainage. How are we going to drain this property? I live on the back side of this property. All of the water comes to me. Right now, it's farmland, cow land. You know, we have a lot of water, not really a big problem. We go put 118 homes on it. Where are we going to drain all this water? To start off with, this land and is in a area that's like a bowl. And where this projected 118 homes or whatever they are is basically in the center of that bowl. And I guess if we get to the point to where we do a drainage study on it, we're going to find that out. There's no way to drain this property. Then we talked about how the land was feasible to buy. Well, $297,000, and then when you put 2,200 foot of blacktop road, that's $200,000. So you got $500,000 in that piece of property that's affordable. I don't call that affordable piece of property to build homes on. We're just concerned, you know, with the density of the project, all the water wells. Another thing, if you look at I guess you have a drawing of the property. They have 113 acres, not 140 acres. It's a 113 acre tract. They have cut off the first 4 or 5 phases with 124 lots is approximately, I'm going to say, 70 or 80 acres. And we know that the state sewer board allows 124 lots and under to be on individual sewer systems. When we get over 125, that's a commercial sewer system. What are we going to do with this back 40 acres when we fill up? We've got 40 acres in the back, approximately, that you can't get to no way but from one of their roads. So then what are we going to do? Oh, let's call it subdivision number 2, pop in 70 or 80 more houses. Then we got 200 homes. Manipulated the state sewer board. What are we going to do with all these systems? We all know sewer systems. What's the percentage of our sewer systems in our parish that do not work? 30%, 40%? They do not work. Where are we going to drop all this raw sewer? That's some of the issues that we have, and we ask that it be denied because we think there's just a lot of problems with it.
Thank you, Mr. Moss. Appreciate that. Okay, how about Mr. Broussard? Are we ready, Mr. Broussard? Name and address, please, Mr. Broussard.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Ernie Broussard. I'm at 4415 Isles Road here in Lake Charles, and I've been asked to speak really against this on behalf of the residents who are opposed to this because they came to me because I am somewhat conversant in physical development and, of course, state and federal programs as well. And, ladies and gentlemen, let me just suggest to you that our whole community has been stressed since the ravages of the storm. We know that there's been a shift in population. We've also know there's been a demand for housing. But we've always felt in planning, and when we talk about smart growth and when we talk about quality development, developments need to be consistent with themselves. The area that you're talking about is agricultural. They're already asking for a variance from your laws and regulations in order to get the development in, for one. Secondly, they need another variance because of the roadway. Now, you understand that this is a roadway going in that's servicing at least 120 units, and I think the residents just have a distrust in government from the state and the federal level, and you are the only ones they have left. You are the only ones that they have to protect their interests. Some of them have not completed their insurance claims. They're still fighting to recover themselves. What they want is just protection in order, if it's in character, or if it's in the same theme with their development, that's one thing. But you have a USDA program by an out-of-town investor that is really inconsistent with the established character of the community. There's unanswered questions. The drainage issue is very big because, for example, the parish we know has a comprehensive plan, but whether or not that this and the residual effects from this is negative, we don't know that. We don't know the traffic generation onto a limited access corridor, a secondary corridor with no shoulders, having that much more traffic without the benefit of a traffic study. If you have an incursion, especially the remoteness, you don't have immediate access to fire protection. You don't have immediate access to retailing, to schools, and it was never designed to be that. So I'll just share with you. I don't want to take up your time. I appreciate the opportunities, but I think the very salient features that you have purported. Your staff has done a good job assessing the comprehensive benefits here, but the very issues that you brought up that you look for in other developments is not apparent here yet. And we just wanted to share that with you. I thank you for your time and courtesy, and I would answer any questions that you may have in this regard.
We're okay, Mr.
Chairman?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have 2 more people that asked to speak. Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
No, I didn't have a question.
We have 2 more people that want to speak. If there's anything you want to add, I'm going to ask Mr. Van Winkle has signed a card if you have something to add. Name and address for the record, Mr. Van Winkle.
Eric Van Winkle, 1708 Boys Village Road. Representing the Blue Settlement Manchester Fire Department. I'm a little nervous speaking in public, sorry about that.
I know how you feel.
From a fire protection standpoint, our primary issue is water supply in the event of a structural fire. The proposed subdivision is located in an area without municipal water. Nearest fire hydrant approximately a mile from the McCowan Road entrance, and this would put the main body of homes over a mile away from the nearest hydrant. Fire within the subdivision would require water to be shuttled from that hydrant, and this would be complicated by the absence of alternate routes into the subdivision. Our second concern is the proposed amount of structures within this development and their close proximity to one another. Any fire, whether it's a structure, vehicle, or trash fire, would pose a threat to surrounding structures. We would be tasked not only with extinguishing the primary fire, but also protecting nearby exposures. Of course, this brings us back to the primary issue of water supply. The Blue Manchester Fire Department doesn't want to be seen as taking a side on this issue. Our main goal is public safety and the ability to provide all residents with fire protection. And we thank you for addressing these concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Winkle. We have one more person that requested to speak, Ms. Anderson. Is that right? State your name and address, Ms. Anderson.
My name is Shauna Anderson. My address is 1389 Erica Drive, Iowa, Louisiana. I just jotted down something because I'm kind of like him. I got a little bit nervous, so I'm gonna just read what I wrote to you guys. I am here tonight because I have concerns about the proposed Pavilion Acres subdivision. My first concern is the depreciation of my property value. I am for development in my area. I would simply like the development to be comparable to the community in which I live. The information that is provided on the 7th District Pavilion webpage states that they develop very low-income housing. The home that I, along with many of my neighbors, have built and invested in are not very low-income investments. I am sure that the 7th District Pavilion would agree that investing in a home is considered a major investment because according to their website, and I do quote, financial experts agree that buying a home is the single most important investment that a family can make. I am here tonight because I'm trying to protect the financial investment that I, along with my neighbors, have made in building our homes. I have worked hard to get to where I am today, and I want to protect all of my hard work and the investments that I have made in my home. I do realize that not everyone has the capability to build custom homes. I do, however, want homes developed in my area that will help maintain and not depreciate the financial investment that I have made. My second concern is the placement of 118 homes in this one area. This will cause a major traffic increase. Due to the fact that the major roadways in and out of our community are rural roads and two-lane highways, I am concerned that there will be an increase in traffic problems and a possible delay in emergency response times. Furthermore, as a parent of young children, I am deeply concerned that this traffic increase will prove dangerous to children at play in our community. As I have stated before, I will fully support efforts to develop our community. However, I am simply requesting that any future development complement the existing community. I sincerely hope that you would consider our request tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Do we have any comments?
I have a comment. I'd like to, one, thank all my neighbors for coming out, supporting this effort. I've been called, Russell and I spoke several times, and, you know, I've expressed my concerns. He's expressed his concerns. And I guess the one problem I have is there's a development right next to it that I wish we would have had a lot more support as we do tonight. There's a mobile home park coming up right next to this development that no one said a word. I mean, it came up, it was approved, and, you know, which isn't a bad thing. I just think it was brought to attention by Mr. Moss that this new development, and, you know, it's just, we need support like this, and I'm glad to see everybody You know, I'm at heart, I'm for helping people, and, you know, the 7th District Pavilion, what they're trying to do is, it's a good thing, you know, and I'm a little topsy-turvy on how I'm going at this, but, you know, the whole thing is, what they're trying to do is really provide housing for affordable people, people that really can't afford housing. The type of housing that they're trying to provide to people is houses that are in the $120,000 to $130,000 range. Yeah, that may not be up to where I live. Yeah, we do have people with probably $300,000 houses. I know mine isn't. We actually have one of these houses in our subdivision. I never heard a peep from this young lady, never. So, you know, glad to see everybody. You know, again, I wish we could have, you know, had a little bit more support on this other adventure. Mr. Moss has his adventure out there, or his venture with his subdivision. And, you know, he and I talked about it, and I have my concerns as well, along with the board and the drainage. So, you know, I just hope everything works out. I really do.
Mr. Duhon?
Motion for approval?
Second.
Okay, we're going to do electronic vote. We have a motion by Mr. Duhon, second by Mr. Johnson.
Oh, we vote.
This is to vote the rezoning, item number 20. So we're going to do electronic vote right now. We got 10 against and 1 for, so the motion failed. We are going to based on counsel from Mr. Vickers, defer the item 21 and 22.
Motion to defer.
Have a motion?
Second.
We got a motion by Ray Fontenot, second by Mr. Johnson to defer. All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion's,
So moved on number 22.
so we're moved on that. We're going to do the same thing on 22. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, well, that's it. We have one more item left. Give everyone a chance to go. Now, you understand that this, part of this will come back on Thursday here, so y'all need to come back for that.
Police jury.
The police jury on Thursday. The zoning will come back up again.
Your final.
5:30.
3:30.
And if you please exit as soon as you can, I appreciate it. We still have one more item left to go on. Thank y'all for coming. It's great to see the community involved. It's a gentle, caring soul, man. What can I say? Okay, let's move on. Item number
I think Brad and I are the only ones for it.
Item number 23, take appropriate action to reconsider case VA 03001-07, a request by Richard and Denise Clement for a zoning variance to allow residential development to manufactured homes at 7354 Debbie Lane in Ward 3 at the next regularly scheduled Planning and Zoning Board meeting. I'm going to let Mr. Vickers speak on this case.
Before he does that, could I ask the people in the back holding the meeting to hold your meeting outside, please? Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Vickers.
This is in reference to a case that was on our agenda back a couple of months ago, and it involved the placement of an additional mobile home on a piece of property that had an existing mobile home, and one was added, and I think it was for a family representative, and it's been brought to my attention that the reasons that were stated in the application and the testimony that we heard, that due to the fact that the mobile home was too old, was not the case. And so I'm gonna let Mr. Landry, who's here now, Chris, did you want to speak? This is in your area, so you can kind of tell them a little bit better than I can, that
Mr. Landry, just state your name and address, and we're gonna cut you some slack, because you came,
Yeah, I filled this card out, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Landry, 4336 Oak Lawn Drive in Lake Charles. And the board as well, thank you for allowing me to speak. After that meeting, I guess it's been 2 or 3 months ago, I was contacted by some of the people that live in that neighborhood and was informed that the lady that had moved the mobile home, which, by the way, I don't know if you remember, but they did it without a permit, of course, that she did not tell y'all the truth. And of course, no one's under oath whenever they come before y'all or the police jury, either one, but you do expect them to tell the truth, or I'm sure you do. I know we do, and I do. And I know Mr. Williams, I read the minutes of that meeting that night. He asked the lady more than one time and had a hard time believing. I just can't believe that, they would just make you leave and evict you over the age of your home. And he was answered, oh, yes, sir. I mean, she more than one time, she answered that question. And I was told that was not the truth. Well, I found out where the lady had the mobile home, and I contacted the park owner and got him and his people all on the phone, and they actually had sent me a letter on their letterhead stating that was not true. That is not why she was evicted. It had nothing to do with the age of her home. They did not have any such restriction. He said it didn't matter about the age as long as, they maintained the mobile home. It could be 25 years old. Really didn't matter. So y'all were not told the truth, and whenever I found that out, I contacted Mr. Vickers, and I forwarded the letter on to him, which I'm assuming y'all have a copy of, and if you don't, we can certainly get you a copy of it. So, I mean, with that said, it kind of undermines the whole purpose. I mean, you expect people to come up here and tell you the truth, and, when they don't, it's kind of bad if there's absolutely no consequence whatsoever. It just really doesn't matter, and I just didn't feel like it was right, and I mean, I would ask y'all that you at least, hear the case again.
Okay.
I do have a copy of the letter, if y'all would like me to read it. It's just very brief.
Okay. I think Mr. Johnson's just in a hard hurry.
Oh, wasn't Mr. Smith available here that night?
Yes, it was.
It was.
I'll talk to Mr. Smith after this.
Let me ask a question before he reads the letter. Has the lady moved her mobile home already?
Oh, yes, sir. She moved the mobile home without permits and onto her parents' property. And from what I understand, to this day, is still not hooked up to sewage. There's some problems there.
Okay, so. Read the letter. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mr. Vickers?
Okay, this letter is on the letterhead of Fairview Mobile Estates, and it's addressed to the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury. And it references Mrs. Rosie Burnside. It says, Dear Sir, Rosie Burnside lived at Fairview Mobile Estates, 5859 Tom A. Bear Road, Lot 519, Lake Charles, Louisiana, 70607. She was evicted from our park and moved out on 11/3/06. Ms. Burnside was not evicted for the age of her mobile home. If you have any questions, I can be reached at my office from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Sue Huber, who must be the manager of Fairview Mobile Estates.
What was the reason for eviction?
Well, they're not getting into that. I guess the motion that we have, the question we have here today is, do we want to rehear the case? Do we want to rehear the case?
Because there probably
rescind
was
our
some
last vote?
sympathy towards her for having to move because of the age of her home and all kinds of
That's correct.
related problems.
so.
I remember that was the area where the people were upset because there were several FEMA trailers in the area. There were multiple home sites on the same lots, and
Do I have
Let
a
me
motion?
rehash this real quick. She moved her mobile home onto her parents' property under the premises that she had to move out of the trailer park, which was not factual, and so we were given some
Well, the only thing that we know for sure was that she wasn't kicked out for the age of her
That's
home.
correct. It could be for another reason, but that's
she
the
moved
reason
down
that she
under them
stated
with
to
no
us.
permit.
But that's the reason she gave us. Yeah, okay, thank you.
That's Mr. Smith.
All right.
I've slept since then, but I think I remember this, and I believe I was asked about that, and we determined that she did not have a written lease. She was on month to month. Right. And what I said was that when you're on a month to month, The landlord can terminate that any 30 days that he wants to with appropriate notice. And so she could, her right to be in that other trailer park could terminate whether she was evicted or not. He could just say, you're out of here. And that's true with all month-to-month rentals. And I think I was asked about that, and that was my answer.
We ain't going yet. That was exactly what it was.
I agree.
Mr. Landry made comment, to the point about, lying to this board and should there be consequences to it. And we've passed for people to have hard luck and allowed people to do certain things like move a trailer on for different purposes. To me, I agree with that, the line. At least at a minimum, get them back here and have it.
We got a motion. Do we have a second?
Wait a minute.
I guess the biggest thing, Chris, I think is right, because if we find out that that's happened, the lying to both y'all's board or our board, this will set a good precedent that people say, we can come back and correct a mistake that we consider we might have made for due reason.
May I say something, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Smith.
I don't know what this woman's level of understanding was. I'm not trying to say she didn't lie, but what I'm saying is they may have told her, you've got to get your trailer out of here at the end of 30 days. And she may have thought she was evicted, when in fact, the landlord was well within his rights to say, your right to remain here is simply terminated. So I'm not trying to take up for her, and but I recall that answer that night, and I remember thinking, we don't know whether she was evicted or not. She was told she had to leave, and that was the end of it.
And she could have absolutely not meant to lie. I mean, how many times we get in an argument, two people have two different stories, and they both believe them to be the case, and she was getting kicked out. She might have.
She plainly represented to us that she was kicked out because her trailer was too
And
old.
she may have thought
Coach did ask her that.
They may have said something else, and she might have not believed it. She might have said, the real reason they're kicking me out is because my trailer's so old. I mean, she could
Get her up there and
believe it.
talk to her.
Let me ask you this. Can we request if she comes back before us that she have a letter or note from the landowner on the trailer park stating the reason why? That would kind of solve all the problems if we get the.
Legally.
Right. Can we request her to do that? Or,
I mean, we can request it.
I mean, and she may say no, but then there's leverage there too,
Her next reason may be better than the first one. But Mr. Smith makes a good point, and a lot of people misinterpret what's going on, or they believe what they want to believe, truly believe what they want to believe to be the problem. And but I'm all for having her come back and we redo this over one time. It's a great precedent for, as Mr. Fontenot stated. So we have a motion by Mr. Fontenot. Do we have a second?
Mr.
We
Johnson.
have a second by Mr. Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion's carried.
You didn't ask for a no?
Any noes?
No.
2 noes.
Mr. Chairman, may I make another
If you
statement,
start
please?
recalling every politician that lies, we're not gonna have anybody left in Congress.
Okay, we have, the ayes have it, so the motion does carry, but the 2 noes are noted. Mr. Smith?
I think that if this body or the staff tries to go to the old trailer park owner, he probably would not divulge that information because of privacy laws. But if she is directed to go see him and she asks him for a statement, then that's fine. We won't have a problem.
In
And
defense
what we
of
do will
herself,
depend on
yeah.
whether she does that or not.
Yeah, I suggest we make that a request of her in defense of herself. Now, if she doesn't want to do it,
That's fine.
that's her problem.
It's not a mandate.
Right.
Okay, well, with that done, item 24 is the next item on the agenda is to advise that the police jury took the following action on May 17th, 2007, with reference to the recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Board of May 15th, 07. Trout was upheld and granted, upheld by the police jury. Natalie was upheld. We granted, it was upheld. Broussard was granted by us and upheld. Multitask was granted by us and upheld. Hardy was granted by us and upheld. St. Prosper was granted by us and upheld. Parker was granted by us and upheld. The next item on the agenda is to advise that the next regular scheduled Planning and Zoning Board meeting would be held Tuesday, July 17th, of 07, in the police jury meeting room at 5:30 p.m.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a motion, have a second by, a motion by Mr. Fontenot, second by Ms. Sereno. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it, motion's carried, meeting adjourned.